Happy Labor Day. I noticed in this morning's Times column, September 2nd, 2020, that there was an announcement that Rogers is expanding 5G networks to 50 markets, but consumer adoption will take time. Well, I decided to look a little closer at that article, and I realized that there's missing a very important piece of information. So from there, I decided to go to the Rogers news release on the item. Well, even there, it was still missing important information. That few people realize that 5G is being rolled out in two phases. The first is 5G new radio, which will, for the most part, and I believe everywhere in Canada, involve just the sub-6 gigahertz frequencies, which are frequencies that we are currently being exposed to. Now, that's bad enough, and it's going to get worse when they implement the cell mesh network that is part of 5G, and who knows what other problems that will be there. And especially for people like me that are electromagnetic hypersensitive, this will be a problem. And we have every reason to be concerned. But it won't include the millimeter wave frequencies. And the reason I say that is that when one goes to the Innovation, Science and Economic Development, our Industry Canada website, you find that there doesn't seem to be any millimeter wave spectrum awarded for cell phone use. There is a little bit that is awarded for rural internet connections, such as with companies like ExploreNet, but the actual auction for the 5G spectrum, which the first one will be at the 35 gigahertz band, will not be until June of next year. So apart from a few experimental sites that may have it, there is no millimeter 5G in Canada at this time. It's very important to recognize this, that I suspect they're doing it for a couple of reasons. One of them is because I don't think they have the hardware ready and need to test it. So they're testing it with the frequencies they understand using very well now. Another is it will probably give them a good excuse to market two versions of new phones. First of all, to deal with the 5G, and then to deal with our 5G new radio, and then to deal with the millimeter waves. Well, you can sell two phones that way. That's great. But also, one of the others is that I believe they're staging the implementation so that, somewhat in the vein of a frog sitting in a pot of hot water on the stove, not jumping out till it's too late, that they're going to slowly, shall we say, ramp up the problems with it until they get into the millimeter waves. And especially when they hit the 60 gigahertz, that's going to be a serious problem, because that has been proven to interfere with how oxygen is absorbed into bodies, and some people that have been exposed to it apparently seem to have some, almost as though they were suddenly exposed to the lack of oxygen at something like 30,000 feet. Now, that will allow them to say, oh no, there's been no change in the frequencies and people are just imagining the problems. And basically just, shall we say, laugh at the people that are expressing concerns. And we won't know won't see the real problems until it's too late. Which is a good reason for people in Canada to contact their MLAs, go to Industry Canada and insist that the millimeter wave spectrum for 5G be delayed until, well, forever. And if you're not in Canada, you have your FCC and you have all the various other government agencies that are all pushing 5G adoption. we seem to have lost the blocking 5G new radio and the getting ready for the implementation of the millimeter bands, but I don't believe there is much of any millimeter bands for cell phones sold anywhere in the world yet, but it's coming. We've got to stop them before it's too late.